This is a demonstration video for final assignment where I will use Mesh tool to recreate the cherry tomato over here. So I will show you the step by step on how to recreate this. Now, the first thing I want to do is to analyze my object here. So I want to capture the highlight, the texture, the form, the 3D shape of everything here. So let's start by selecting our object and then swap the stroke into fill because we need it to be fill, and then we'll press U for mesh tool. Now I need to decide where should I put my mesh line. So over here we have a highlight. So I will press one time over here to create that one line. And then over here we have a shadow, we have some highlights, we have a bounce light. So all these are the difference in color. So I want to have different mesh line for each one of the color. So I create one here, and maybe just one more here and over here. Maybe one over here so that this highlight will not bleed all the way to the right side here. Okay, perhaps one more here. Okay, so it's very important to take note that we do not want to start our drawing or our mesh tool process with too many lines, or else when we want to color pick using eyedropper tool, it will take forever. All right, so the first step, what I want to do is I want to color pick the mid-tone. All right, so press I on your keyboard to select the eyedropper tool. And I think I will color pick somewhere around here. So hold down Shift and left click. As you can see here, nothing will happen because I haven't selected my fill yet. So make sure you select the fill. Again, press I for eyedropper tool and left click. So this will apply an overall color on my shape here. And now what I want to do now is I want to change the color of this line here because it's red, both are red. It's making it very hard to see. So double click on the layer thumbnail and I'll change to something else, maybe a yellow. That's okay. All right, so it's better now. Now let's start color picking one by one on each of this spot. And when you find that some part is very hard to select the points, for example, over here, you can use the lasso tool, press Q, and you can just draw around that part to select multiple points. And then you can just color pick everything here. Now, sometimes you might find that there's no line in the middle here to stop the transition of the color from white to the red. So in this case, now we can put one more line here just to block the color. And then we'll continue capturing all the colors as accurately as possible. And it's also a good idea to go back to the same spot sometimes to recolor pick some of the area. Because if you don't capture the highlight as accurately as possible, then your object or the food that you're trying to draw, it will not look realistic. And over here, this part since it's blocked a little bit, so it's okay if it's not that accurate yet. But I'm just gonna use my own judgment to get the color because I know the edge here is slightly darker. So I'll press Q for lasso tool and select somewhere around here. Now, most of the time, you can reuse the color that you have already picked on this tomato or the object that you're drawing. You can reuse its color to enhance the tones that you're trying to color pick. All right, so now I have the base color, the highlight and everything, the shadow. It's okay if the highlight or some of the part is not as accurate yet. All right, so we just want to get the 3D shape for now. That's the first step. Next, we're going to capture this highlight. So as you can see here, our highlight is quite soft. So remember that it's not necessary to capture everything using only one mesh tool. We can actually use different methods as well. We can use a solid shape with gradient, or you can create another shape just for the mesh tool. So let's try. So I will use pen tool to draw out the highlight. So if I place on top over here, there are a few methods that I can use. So let's try the first method, which is to use gradient. So I'll bring out this gradient and let's apply an opacity gradient. Okay, I'll color pick this over here, set it to linear. Same for this, I'll color pick the same color. And then I will set this stop to 0 opacity. And what I'll do is I'll rotate this gradient so that I get something like this. And then I will lower down the opacity of this entire shape by maybe 50%. So using this method, I have created a highlight that looks sharper, less soft. So it looks okay from far. All right, but if you do not like that hard look, the harsh look, you can use another method. So let's try another method. So using back the same shape here, I'll duplicate one more. Okay, let's get rid of the gradient and get back the solid shape. Okay, let's reset the opacity back to 100. The second method is to use the effects panel, and we will apply a blur effect on this shape. So we can go to effects, stylize, we can use feather. So with the feather effect, we can blur and soften the edge of our highlight. We can also use another effects called Gaussian blur. So let me remove this again. Okay, so another effects, go to effects panel, blur, and Gaussian blur. So the difference between Gaussian blur and feather is that the Gaussian blur will blur the entire thing, which we cannot see now because it's just a solid color. So if you use Gaussian blur on an image, you will notice the main difference. All right, but either one is fine in this case because they both is just a solid color. All right, so this is by using the effects panel. You can get all this, or you can just use mesh tool again. So I'll select this, press U for mesh tool, and this time I don't have to create that many lines. I just have to create a little bit because there's not that much color difference. Maybe I'll create this tool here. And now I'll just do the same. All right, now here's another tips. If you want to select only the dots here, the anchor point here, if I use the lasso tool and I try to select all of this point, it will select whatever that's behind as well. So be careful when you're selecting a specific point in front. Make sure to double click that layer to enter isolation mode. And then when you press Q and you select this, it will only select whatever that is in the isolation mode. All right, it will not select all the things at the back. And what I'm trying to do here is that I will apply opacity onto this selected point. So go to Window, Transparency, let's set to 50. And let's see what happens. I can make it lower. Okay, let's set it to 10%. So as you can see, it becomes softer because it moves from a solid color to a transparent. So let's do the same for this part over here and here. Let's set to 10% and press Escape to exit the isolation mode. And there you go. Another method that you can use to create additional layer for the highlight. So just remember, each and every one of the shape here, if you cannot achieve the sharp look that you want, the harsh look, you can use separate layer to draw the shape out and just put it on top. All right, don't try to recreate everything using one single mesh tool because the more complex your object, the more layers are required to capture all the details, the shapes and the lines, the colors to make your object look realistic.